think all of those are important. We need to fill those buildings downtown. And in order to do that, we're going to have to diversify what we're doing for business. We're in an industrial town, and we need to diversify and get high tech and other things here. The reason we don't have it is because we're not asking for it. We are seeing a lot of growth and a lot of stuff going on downtown in District 1, but I think every area is important, such as North Beach. That's something that I focused on, but I think we need to have a task force in every area of the city, the west side, the south side, Flower Bluff, my area that I live in, Cal Allen, downtown, everywhere, the island, and figure out what the residents want and let them have a say in what we're going to do. But I think every area is just as important as the other.
Sure. So great question. That's a pretty heavy loaded question because you're kind of putting a priority over one or the other. So clearly not everyone's going to be happy with the response. I'm going to remain neutral and say that critical thing to do right now is to improve the quality of life of every citizen in Corpus Christi. And that encompasses a lot of different areas. So I cannot say that working on one thing is a priority. The priority is to improve entire quality of life of every citizen in Corpus Christi. And like I said, I don't have 3 main bullet points. I have one. I have like the Priscilla pyramid. So it's to improve the quality of life of every citizen, following by jobs, housing, education, senior citizen, our stray population, public safety, and obviously our homeless issue.
Well, I think you have to have both. And I think what we have looked at and we continue to look at is the rules and regulations in terms of our building codes and the requirements to go in and do some remodeling. And this, you know, what impairments does the city throw in front of people that want to remodel their existing homes? A lot has to do with, you know, a lot of neighborhoods are born out of where the schools are. And with CCISD, they're relocating some schools, they're tearing some down. I mean, my elementary school that I went to initially was Windsor Park. You know, they tore the old one down and built a brand new one. Cullen Junior High School, I went to Cullen Junior High School the first year it opened, and I don't think I'm that old, but they've already torn it down. And I understand they're going to rebuild that one and combine two schools where they're at the old Cullen site. And I think that should help some neighborhoods. But again, if we keep our street and those type of things maintained, and the property owners have some responsibility in maintaining neighborhoods by maintaining their property, because that affects the value. And so, you know, we need to restore the pride of ownership in homes. And a lot of that has to do with, you know, how they see their neighbor. We try to get by on a regular basis, get the garbage picked up and the recycling picked up. And, you know, you don't want to leave the cans out there for a week. You want to get them out there the day it's picked up and get them in after they're empty, and restore a little bit of pride in the neighborhood. The city can't do everything, but, and I know in your neighborhoods, a lot of people have a lot of pride in their residences and they want to take care of them. And so that's why I think this street rebuild and rehab program is going to play a real significant role in encouraging people to continue to address their personal property on their residences. The city will do their part on the public part of it.
I think the cities are going to grow, you know, regardless of what we necessarily want. We have to be responsible in the balance of both. So we can't not fill in or rehab, as you put it, Adam. We can't not grow inside the city without doing both really responsibly. But I think it's very important to keep a focus on what we already have and what we need to repair, what we need to revitalize. There are lots, like you mentioned, District 1 has a lot of growth, revitalization, I should say. I specifically am working on the corridor of Leopard and Staples right now because, as you say, that has been sitting there, vacant buildings, and that is going to be our new entrance, right, to the downtown once the bridge is up. And so we are moving forward. I've had many conversations with Peter and said we have to try and find a way to revitalize this and make this beautiful. This is actually historic. This has been here forever. It's our uptown, if you will, for Corpus Christi. And we don't have no one has a reason to really do anything there because of the way, the buildings look, and people just own them and they just leave them there. So we're actually working on that right now. We are extending a contract to look at this whole area to see how we can revitalize it. I think the revitalization comes with incentive programs that we have, but you're also going to have growth. As you know, the South Side is growing. I mean, it's going far south fast. And so that area has been annexed to an extent. Otherwise, it's completely out of control. So for me, I'm very focused on, and specifically your district, because of what I just told you in terms of this whole area uptown and further. But I think it's very important. It's equally important, but we have to balance. At the end of the day, we have to balance both, because people are going to move and build out south regardless, whether we like it or not. They just are, because the land's for sale. But we have to focus as a municipality. We can't leave areas behind. It's just too important to revitalize, incentivize, and make the areas beautiful.
My thought is this: that was a concern when I was on the council, but they already had the agreements. I would let the agreements expire. The industry would hate to hear me say that, but I would let them expire, because they're going to sue the county and the city for taxes anyway. So pay your fair taxes and we don't have to worry about it. Real concerned about the environment with the desalination plant they're talking about. We need to do more studies on that. Worried about the bioaccumulation of metals in the fish, the bay. And that industry is involved in all of that, because all of that is going to be for them. So the taxpayers should be really concerned about what's going on there. Our quality of life could completely change if we don't do the science.
Yes, it's environment, global warming, climate change. It's inevitable. All of these industries clearly affect us, but they also help. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's 50-50 for and pro. Refineries help, but then they also affect, like, killing the environment. My brother's in the oil field. He's completely against fracking, but that's his job, that's his livelihood. We don't have a lot of resources in Corpus Christi. I do know that once we start growing as a city, we're going to be able to implement better programs that will actually help the environment. As global warming keeps hitting, climate change, obviously Corpus Christi is going to sink. So that's another great concern that we have. We need to work on a program, and we have people like Mr. McComb that's actually pretty much just relies on faith. I respect that, but I don't respect that he's not more like pro-science and pro-environment. He's pretty much just a boomer that's kind of like delegating his job responsibilities to current city council. So as mayor, I would look up to other states like California or New York and see what they're implementing and kind of follow that platform. And that way we can actually move forward as a city. We need to prepare for the possibility of our city actually sinking. So that's also something else that we need to look forward to. And the mayor does have only 2 years. That's not a long time frame. So if you think about it, once you're elected mayor, you have to worry about re-election in 2 years. It's not enough time to actually solve all of the problems that we've inherited after decades and decades of failed leadership. So if elected mayor, I am going to have my hands like full, but I am willing to like dedicate and donate my time. I'm going to be available maybe 24/7. We do have 24 hours in a day. I'm probably wrong on that, but most definitely I'm like for finding solutions that's actually going to help or benefit the quality of life of every citizen in Corpus Christi.
We have 72 industrial district agreements. 70 of them all contain the same verbiage. 2 of them are different. 70 of them, I don't think people understand the full benefit of the industrial districts. They pay 100% of the value of the property, just like it's in the city limits. That's on the real estate. On the improvements, they pay 62.5% of the assessed value by the tax assessor collector, and so, or the tax appraiser. But they get no city services. They're outside the city limits. They provide for that 37.5% discount off of 100% for their improvements. They provide their own police department through the Port Authority's police department. They provide their own fire department. The city of Corpus Christi doesn't go in unless they're called as backup. So they pay for their own fire department. They pay for their own police department, and they maintain all the streets and things. And the county takes care of the county roads in the industrial district. The city does not. And so that is a huge savings to the taxpayers of Corpus Christi. And so they're not getting a free pass. I mean, a lot of people think they are, but they're paying 100% of the assessed value on the land, and they're paying 62.5% on the improvements. And then they're responsible for their own fire, their own police, their own streets, and anything. And the county takes care of the roads, Upriver Road, and some of those that are out there. So, but the one issue that I think probably will be part of the negotiations in 2000, well, we'll start negotiations probably in 2022, maybe 23 and 24. They usually negotiate them a couple of years before they expire, and I think they expire in 2025. I think one of the, at least I would think, that when we negotiate the contracts in these new districts, in the new contracts, that the value of the property that the assessor levies on them, they need to accept that. And they don't need to file a lawsuit to try to get it down and cut those prices, because the appraiser, by law, has to assess it 100%. And they don't need to be taking us to court and tying up the money for 2 or 3 years in a lawsuit trying to determine whether they agree on the property. So during that, every year they get notice, just like you and I do. Here's the value of your property. Do you agree with it or not? And you can file it and go down and make an appeal. And that's the time to do it. But once the tax rolls have been adopted, I think that's going to be something that's going to be negotiated, and probably negotiated hard, that those values are going to stay, because what happens if you have a lawsuit, and that takes several years, and then if they do prevail, then you have to reimburse or you credit them in the future if they win. That money then, I mean, it's put in escrow in most cases. So, I mean, the city may have the money in an escrow account, but in fear of having to give a return, depending on the lawsuit outcome, they don't really have use of that money. And so I think we need to get that cleared up. We've been very fair with the industrial industries in the city. And, but other than that, they do, like I say, they pay 100% of their property and 62.5% of the improvements. And then any new improvements obviously would go on the tax rolls, and you can pretty well know, because what the values are. Those numbers are in news reports and others while they're outside the city limits. I think the county assessor does have access to those figures, or does the appraisals on the new investments. So I think they're going to be negotiated hard, but I don't believe that the community would be interested in the same deal, because then that means that you would have to contract with somebody privately to provide for you to have fire and police service, and you get that in your taxes, and the industrial district people don't. They have to do that outside of their taxes.
Well, I agree. I think that we're going to have to take a tough stance, because it's going to be a difficult thing to do, but I think we do have to review those when it comes forth. And as mayor, I will definitely, vow to the people that we will look at them to see what makes the best sense. That's something that the council, I believe it's just the mayor maybe, because we've never been privy to that in terms of, having input. But as mayor, I think it's extremely important. The environment is extremely important to me. And I look forward to making the environment a more of a focus for this city, because I think we're very behind in little things that we could be doing. We could just be advocating for that. We could get, private investment and private focus, the private businesses that want to be a part of creating a better environment for us on board as well. I just don't think there's any leadership for it right now on our level. People do it on their own, but I think that there needs to be that more of that focus. But back to the agreements, it's definitely something that I would seriously look at and take into consideration. And again, it's going to have to be something that we take a tough stance on. But again, this is about, our community and our city that we want to leave for our children. So yes, I'm very much in favor of doing that, and I would.
I like all the activities that we have downtown. I was looking forward to Christmas. That's one of my favorite times of the year. And I know that the CVB put on a great Christmas with the tree and Santa and all that. So that was one of my favorite things. I cannot wait till all of this is over. We're probably not going to have that this year. Maybe we'll have a tree lighting. I don't know. But the things that are put on downtown are very important. I'm not a big beach goer, but my children are, so they miss that. So I'm just looking forward to opening up where we can all be together. Community is good to come together. Zoom's really tough, when you cannot really visit with people and touch and hug, and I miss all of that.
Prior to COVID-19, I found myself spending summers away from Corpus Christi. I've been a resident here for 12 years, and I've realized that there's not much to do in Corpus Christi. And the reason there's not much to do in Corpus Christi is because we don't have a larger travel industry. The reason we don't have that is because we don't have more tax dollars. The reason we don't have that is because we have students that don't want to come to TAMUC or Del Mar because there's no great career waiting for them afterwards. So they end up coming here and leaving. Those are students that are, they just don't want to be here. So I found myself spending summers in Colorado, Whistler, Canada. I found myself just leaving Corpus Christi because there's not much to do. I ran out of things to do. So this summer I was forced to stay here because of COVID-19, and I realized there's a solution to this problem. It's just our leaders are not implementing those solutions, and we need new leadership. Mr. Mayor McComb was actually at a press conference, one of his 2 press conferences. He pretty much delegated all of his work to Judge Barbara Canales. He actually went on his press conference and laughed at the COVID-19 situation. Once he laughed at that situation, I kind of sat back and looked what is going on? I mean, I know he's not a good guy. He claims to be of faith, but yet he has no solution for the homeless issue. He's laughing, people are dying, and we weren't prepared for COVID-19. He didn't implement a program or something to actually help our city. We actually had to bus in nurses and doctors from other states to help us with the COVID-19 crisis. So we weren't prepared for that. And Mr. McComb was over there laughing. We have Caroline Vaughn, who is anti-LGBTQ and actually is against our LGBTQ community. My brother's transgender. He came out at the Corpus Christi Pride Parade. She's running for office, and it's possible that she might win this position. So do we want someone that's anti-LGBTQ to be running the city? I don't think we need anything like that.
Well, the things I like to do are, even with COVID, part of the guidelines were if you were outside, that was good. Well, I like to fish. I like to work in the yard, so that really was that wasn't a penalty for me for COVID, because you can go out and fish and you can keep your distance from everybody, and working in the yard, you don't have a big crowd there helping you. So, and my wife and I are the yard folks at our house, so we both like working in the yard. But I think the thing that probably we felt most penalized by was we couldn't go to church and enjoy the fellowship that we had there. We couldn't go out to eat as often as we'd like. But we're trying to keep and get the city back to what is the new normal. And I think people are addressing that. beginning to open things back up, I think we got to be sensitive to the regulations in terms of, keeping your hands washed, wearing your mask. We haven't conquered it yet, but we're not doing these to penalize people. We're doing it to try to keep people safe. But we've also got to get people back to work where they can continue to have their income and pay their bills, because doesn't matter how much money the government's got, we don't have enough to pay everybody's bills and keep them fed infinitum. So we've got to get people back to work, and we're working on that. But I think you're going to see a significant change in the way work is carried out by many businesses. I think they've realized that there can be a lot of work accomplished at home. And so companies that have been renting huge space in office buildings may very well, when their leases are up, not need that much space. So I think a problem we're going to be facing in the future is that we may have a lot of empty office space, maybe some empty retail space, because more and more people, they got used to ordering online, which is unfortunate when they could go locally to buy it. Restaurants are having to make some adjustments, but Corpus Christi is a great tourist town. I think you could see that even during COVID, when people had a chance to come to Corpus Christi before the restrictions really got heavy. They just flocked to Corpus Christi. And I think in the future, you're going to see people probably more inclined to come stay in the States and come to the beaches in Corpus Christi than maybe jump on a plane and go over to Europe or someplace else. But so I think the tourism business is bright in Corpus Christi. And so we want to make sure we can accommodate them and they have a good and safe time while they're here.
No question, the Buck Days Parade. Because I grew up, my parents have 3 siblings. I have 2 sisters and a brother. And my parents would take us to that Buck Days Parade every single year. And I remember so vividly. It was the most exciting night. And so Buck Days Parade is probably the best one for me. And, moving forward, that's a difficult one, because people gather so closely to watch, and so many people gathered so closely to watch the parade go by. But we would have to find a way. And I think that we're in a place right now where we are moving out of that. So, the safety and health of people is first and foremost, obviously, over a parade. But if if it got to the worst case scenario, maybe there's a way, that the parade could be had somehow where we don't gather the people. Maybe the parade just goes through certain streets and people know, and you come outside, kind of like they do. I think they do something similar in Flower Bluff with the fire department. But that is my most cherished annual event is Buck Days Parade.
Basically talking about homelessness, aren't we? So here's my thought. I think that we've got to figure out what to do. I think that we have to have compassion, but I also think that we've got to show some tough love here. There are things that we can do. There are lots of programs downtown for the homeless, but we cannot let them continue to take over our city like they've done. We've got to figure out who is mentally ill, who has drug problems, sort them out and try and help them and direct them to the right program. And the ones that can work, then we need to figure that out as well too. I just don't think we just let them take over our city.
Sure. So I don't support panhandling. It's a very aggressive and it's a very odd practice. We have it in Corpus Christi. I'm expanding Corpus Christi, but we still have panhandlers out there. And that goes back to the homeless issue. So right now, Corpus Christi has probably over 1,000 homeless people. We have 3 homeless shelters. There is no solution to help homeless people. So I don't know if the neighborhood program is actually aware, but our cities and states to the north, east, and west actually buy bus passes for their homeless people, and they ship them down here. They used to do the same thing for San Antonio, but the mayor of San Antonio cut that program out. So it's actually against the law to do that in San Antonio. Don't quote me on that portion, but they don't have the homeless population issue anymore. Now they're coming down to Corpus Christi, and there's no solution to help them lift them out of poverty. So currently right now what we have is all of our homeless people kind of just flooding downtown. And obviously a lot of them end up on the streets panhandling. And that's clearly, it looks really bad. It doesn't help us as a city in general. And we also have people that go out there that are not homeless and are just trying to make money. We see those people on Facebook all the time. So I'm against panhandling. It's not a good thing to have out there. I would most definitely work on a platform. And I spoke about this at the Nueces County Voter Town Hall Forum a couple of days ago. The law firm that I work for right now, currently, we have homeless people that camp out in front of our office, and there's no solution. There's nowhere to send them. We don't call the cops on them because there's no point in doing that. So we need a program to help our homeless people so they can actually get back on their feet, and that's not happening right now. So if we follow the same platform, we follow the same leadership, we're repeating the same mistake over and over again, expecting a different result, and that's the definition of insanity. So by re-electing the same leaders, we're technically insane. So it's time for new leadership. It's time to move forward, and that's what I'm here for, and that's why I'm running for mayor.
Well, Blucher Park, for instance, that's a little different cup of tea than just your normal parks, because it had some deed restrictions in it. It had a reverter clause in it that if it wasn't maintained and operated for the purpose for which it was given by the Blucher family, they could come in and, under the agreement, allege that the city was not fulfilling its terms of maintaining the park, keeping it safe, doing it for a birding area and a visiting area, and really take the property back. And so that was part of the motivation, because it was being taken over by people sleeping in the park and trashing it. And but homelessness is a big problem, but we had to address Blucher Park. But we've also have to address the homelessness. We've got them out of Blucher Park, but we didn't solve a problem. We just relocated it. And neighborhoods are becoming more of a target. And I think we need to do that. Just the other day I read where a veterinarian went to his office and was confronted by a homeless person sleeping on his property in the bushes or somewhere, and the homeless person jumped up and stabbed him. So now that veterinarian, who's been in practice a long time, is in the hospital and ICU from stab wounds. And so we've got to do something to get these people the help they need, get them rehabilitated, whether it be from alcohol and drug or whether it be from psychological issues. But we've got to do more trying to get those people into the programs that can help them get their lives put back together and they can become productive again. But if we can do that, we'll go a long way to helping some of the neighborhoods. But they're kind of moving out of some of the downtown areas and some of the business areas. They're creeping into neighborhoods, and Flower Bluff's got a problem. I think every section of town has problems with people that really need some help and don't necessarily need to be sleeping in people's yards or, in the alleys.
As you know, or may know, Blucher Park had a deed restriction, and so that was enforced. And that is because it's a bird watching park. But in terms of the whole thing altogether, I think that homelessness and some of these issues that we encounter are humanitarian, and I think there isn't an easy solution for them. But I do believe that we have to come together with the current agencies that we have in Corpus Christi and join hands to figure out how do we not only help people, but help people move on and get out of homelessness or whatever is the situation they're in that has them where they are. And because it's a very big problem. And that's what spurred me at Staples and Leopard to even do anything about it, because I was seeing things that were very unacceptable. And I think it may have gotten to a worse level at this point, but we have agencies such as Mission 911 and Catholic Charities and Metro Ministries. We have so many. I think what's missing though is everyone's doing their own thing. And we all need to join together and say, how can we get this moving to where we are at least solving some of the issue here, some of the problem. And this is happening nationwide, but again, it's difficult. I know that some cities do have ordinances that don't allow people, to sleep alongside the walkways and that kind of thing. I think our homelessness department that we've created, Peter has created that here just maybe a year or so ago, if that, maybe not even that long, is going to be critical in how we address some of these things moving forward. But I think that we look at best practices and see what works and what doesn't in other cities. And then we take approach, based somewhat on that. But at the end of the day, it's a humanitarian issue, and it isn't one that the city can handle on its own. This is something that all of the services around our city need to be a part of, including even churches. And I think I would say that as your mayor, I would create a compassionate form of being to address the issue.
I love this question. I think citizens should be involved. I really do. It's our city, it's their city, and I would put a group together and figure out what they wanted to do with it. I wouldn't make that decision. I think the citizens need to do that. And if it's $1 million in cash for that grant, I'd go put it in the bank and draw interest on it.
Sure. So the first thing I would do is the exact same thing as I'm doing with my salary. I would take a vote, take a poll, do some type of town hall, and discuss it with the entire city of Corpus Christi before making a decision myself.
Realistically, it would have to be something that wouldn't create ongoing expense. So it would have to be a capital expense as opposed to one that would create something that would have operational expenses, because then you really created something. Because building a building is one thing, you get it built and you're done. Operating it and maintaining it for 50 years is expensive, and that's more expensive than the building. So I would take that $1 million for one-time expenditures, and probably look at probably some of the nonprofits that really do help those that need it the most if they need some improvement in their facilities, because they're always having to fundraise to create, or expand their services. And I think the expansion of services is going to be required, but maybe just for one-time expenditures, if they needed a new piece of equipment, or they needed to expand a room or a kitchen or a cafeteria, something they've already got ongoing operational expenses there, but they could use more space to provide more services. That really, I think, on a quick response to your $1 million question, that would be something I would probably look at. You can put things in parks, but if you go doing a lot of landscaping, then you got your continual maintenance. Buying a big block of food, well, that runs out pretty quick when you're trying to meet a lot of people's needs. So probably something in the area of a capital expenditure that would get the biggest bang for the buck.
I would put out a big news release that we're going to have a huge town hall. Every district, I would go to every district and I would tell them just that. And then I would ask them, what would you want done in your district with your portion of it? Because I would split it up 5 ways. And so I would get public input on it. And it wouldn't be up to me. We would get everything, we would get everyone's thoughts on it. I think that it's so important for elected officials and leaders to remember why we're here. We're here for the people. And that's it. And I think if and when one forgets that, then we've lost the purpose of what the mayor should be, or an at-large member, or a district member, because we're here for you. You are hiring us. It's not the other way around. And that's one of the reasons I ran in 2014. I wanted to go do good and say, what do we need to do? And let's listen. We need to listen more. And so I will say this as well. I think that proactive, I like to call them conversations with the councilwoman. That's something I kicked off right before the pandemic. And I was going different districts. I only got to do a few because everything happened. But I called it a listening tour. So it is about listening to my constituents. So with the $1 million grant, I would say to each district, what is it? Give me your ideas on what you want to do with it.
Well, I hope that I can earn your vote. I think it's so important that we change the course of our city. And I think our time is now. And we cannot continue to be wasting 2 years. Every 2 years we get a new person, a new council. We've got to focus on what's important for our city. We have the new Harbor Bridge coming in. We've got the port, so many great things. Hopefully we're going to have a canal over at North Beach. We need to change our city so our young people want to stay here. I'm concerned that the city is going to put us in debt if we don't have new leadership, fiscal responsibility. We had over $1 billion last year for the budget. This year, it's $1 billion. Now, just because you get it doesn't mean you spend it. So there's a concern here. We have 3 things going on. We have the EPA consent decree, which is 1,700, let's see, what is it? 175 million? Can't remember. I've got it. Wait, 725 million that we have to pay in 15 years. Your taxes, your utility rates are going to go up. You have a $222 million seawater desal plant they're talking about doing. It's going to cost you more than that because it's too small. And we don't have to put the city at risk. Someone can come in here and build that for the city, and you don't have to worry about your utilities. They can sell the water. We'll buy the water. You sell it to the industry. No risk to the city. And then you have a bond project for $72 million. What they're not telling you is that is not for the utilities. So that means that your utility rates are going to go up. I'm concerned about that. That is one of the reasons that I want to run. I think you've got to have someone fiscal responsibility. Our time is now, and we need to focus on what the future is to keep our young people here. We need better jobs for them to stay. We need different jobs. Industry's wonderful, and they've been good to our city, but we need something other than industry. So I'm asking for your vote. I think I have the leadership qualities. I run a business. I understand budgets. I think I would make a great mayor. And most importantly, I would listen to the citizens. City Hall has been shut down. You have 1 minute to call in for public comment. That's not right. Most meetings are held behind closed doors on the desal. That's not right. So I'm asking for your vote. I think I'm the best choice.
So thank you again. I'm number 4 on the ballot. The reason you should vote for me is because I bring forth new leadership, management skills. I have helped successfully build a small law firm in Corpus Christi into a large law firm. So I do have the experience. I do have 8 people working under me. I am a financially savvy person, and I do want to bring all of my skills and qualities and bring them to the city of Corpus Christi. We are going to turn Corpus Christi into the next central travel destination. So I'm really optimistic about our future. If we elect new leaders, we will actually move forward as a city. My main platform is to improve the quality of life of every citizen in Corpus Christi. I am 36 years old. I'm young. I'm full of energy. I'm a daughter of immigrants. I'm bilingual, so that's a huge plus. We do have a large Latino population in Corpus Christi. I do represent the urban community and obviously the millennials. Vote for me, guys. I'm number 4 on the ballot. I'm here to help Corpus Christi move forward. I've done it for a law firm, a small law firm in Corpus Christi, and I'm here to help the entire city in general move forward. So, Viva Corpus.
Well, I'll do real quick because we didn't talk about streets, but I want to talk about those because those are really important. And I'm excited for District 2. Let me just put in a good word for Ben Molina. I think he's a wonderful person. I think he's doing a great job for your district. But just in 2021, we're going to be able to see Atlantic Street from Ocean Drive to 16th Street get rehabilitated. That's on the schedule. Chamberlain Street from Swatner to Longview to be rehabilitated. Florida Street from Cosner to Normandy, that's under the rehabilitation program, all for 2021. And Southern Street from Ocean Drive to 16th is going to be rehabbed. And I've I've kind of got I'm aware of that over there. When my son first came back from college, he and some of his friends had a house over on Ralston, and that was one of our first demonstration street projects. And I think when I was with y'all last time at Lindale Center, they were either about to issue that contract or getting pretty close. That street now has been completed, and I think it's a significant difference. I hope people on Ralston notice the difference. I've driven down it a couple of times, and there's a significant difference than when he was living on it back a few years ago when they first got out of college. So I'm excited for your district and what some things going to happen, and appreciate the opportunity to come out and visit with you. And feel free to call me anytime or contact my office if I can help. But I'd appreciate their vote either during early voting or on November the 3rd.
So I want to thank you all for having me, and I really appreciate that you took the time to have this Zoom, even though it's not as conventional as we would have liked. It's something, which is better than nothing. I ask you respectfully for your vote. I ask you to please go to my website, paulette4ccmayor.com, to learn a little bit more about you. We don't have enough time for me to tell you everything that I've accomplished, that I believe in, and I would love for you to please go to my website to do that. I want to be your mayor because I want strong leadership. And I want to continue to work full-time for you. This is my full-time job, and it is a blessing. It's a blessing that I'm able to do this full-time. I'm the only mayoral candidate that is willing to work full-time. We have $1 billion budget, okay, $1 billion budget, and we have a part-time mayor. And I believe that a full-time mayor is going to make a difference. You could ask yourself, well, what's the difference? There will be a difference because I will be proactive. I have the energy to do it. I think we need to go to Austin. We talk to our governor and say, where's our share? He just took Tesla to Austin. Why? Why can't we get any part of that? We can, and I know we can, but it takes being proactive and wanting to do that work. I was a business owner for 15 years. And I made a decision the first year. I remember it. I said, when I'm married and I have a child, I'm going to pull back from this. So what I did for the first full years of owning that business, I set that business up to where it was going to operate like clockwork, regardless of who was sitting in the seat in my chair. And exactly the plan that I had planned out happened. I pulled back and I was able to stay home and just work part-time because I organized everything, and I was ready to do what I set out to do. And so for me, leadership is everything. And so I'm ready to be proactive. I'm ready to be your mayor. I'm ready to lead our city in a strong direction. And I hope that you vote for me. I respectfully ask for your vote.